we're going to be watching a couple of OnlyFans horror stories. I didn't think horror stories of OnlyFans ever existed, but let's get straight into it. So I have no idea what any of these stories are, so let's find out.
I'm a bartender, and to me, bartending is about so much more than just serving drinks. It's about community.
Bartending,
So
serving
you can
drinks.
only imagine how heartbroken I was when the pandemic hit and we were basically forced to just close our doors indefinitely. I
Yeah,
tried to find
I get
other
that
sources
feeling.
of income. I even tried running a cocktail delivery service for a while. I did okay, but just not nearly enough to live comfortably. I was looking at having to sell my car, pawn a guitar or two, but the final straw
Jeez.
came when it looked like I might have to put my dog up for adoption. I can put up with a lot of nonsense, man, but the idea of having to take Ripper to the pound, never. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
That's when I got desperate. Desperate enough to consider something pretty drastic. To make it clear, I'm a guy in my late 20s, not completely awful looking, but definitely not Brad Pitt. So I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to many of you when I say that my financial salvation came when I started yep, you sure could guess it, an OnlyFans account. It all started when I heard two of my friends talking about dad bods.
What?
Dad bods, I remember saying. You'd for real prefer a beer gut to a six-pack? Okay, not like a beer gut, she said with a giggle, but like, I don't know, like the slightly out-of-shape look, it just feels real, and besides, gym rats just don't seem fun, you know?
I don't
Dad
see
bods are
how
like,
this is going to be
chill.
horror. Okay.
That was probably some bad phrasing on my part, but you get the picture. The whole dad bod thing had been around for a while, but when I told the girl she must have something of a niche interest, she just laughed. Nope, it's way more popular than you think. And she brings up this OnlyFans profile of some Nick Offerman looking dude who had like a ton of posts up, all with a buttload of likes and comments. This guy makes thousands of dollars a month. His profile is free to sub too, but he does a bunch of request stuff too. Watch. I'm like, no. Thinking she's about to show me this guy's junk or whatever, but no. Apparently the guy did like tuck you in videos or good morning sweetie videos where he pretends to wake up next to you before offering you breakfast and stuff. It was the
Wow.
tamest adult content imaginable, legitimately PG-13 stuff, and he was charging upwards of $50 for a personalized video. The whole rest of my shift, I kept thinking about that guy, thinking how happy he must be to get all this money, and his following was so wholesome too. What's not to like about a setup like that?
I still don't know.
Sure, I bet there was some steamier stuff behind a paywall somewhere, but come on. A few $1,000 a month just to tell some girl to sleep well? Why couldn't I get a piece of that sweet, sweet OnlyFans money?
That's
But no,
true.
I'm not that guy, or at least I wasn't. I had all the confidence of a 2-day-old fawn back then, but then again, I suppose desperation drives us to do stuff out of the ordinary. It was pretty surreal setting up the account. Like I had to come up with a fake name and an attractive username. I had to take a display picture selfie and banner picture. It was a whole thing. I was doubting myself the entire time, but I still went and did it, and since
Oh,
all the
look at that
pictures were as
picture.
anonymous as I could make them, those masks helped to protect more than just my breathing, I suppose, I wasn't all that concerned about getting found out. Besides, that would pretty much be the end of the whole thing. It wasn't like I was going to actually get any followers or anything, right? Right?
One follower?
Well, wrong. Because maybe 3 days after, just when I was starting to forget about the whole thing, I get an email notification from OnlyFans that says, like, user 7876 is now following you, just to be as generic as possible. I'd set up my sub fee to $4.99, then when I checked the payout section, boom, like $4 was headed into my bank account at the end of the month as an upfront charge. I also had a direct message that just read, "Loving your pictures. Can't wait to see more. X."
That's just
I
weird.
couldn't tell who the person was. There was no bio on their account, nothing to even clue me into if they were male or female, but still, I just reply, "Thank you so much. If you know anyone who might enjoy my content, please share my profile with them." I get a "will do" in return. Then that's that. A few
Seems
days
casual.
later, I get another sub, then another, and by the end of the week I have a grand total of 10. Loyal but totally anonymous subscribers. The extra $40 a month was paying for most of Ripper's dog food by that point. Not the good stuff,
Very
but
slowly.
I didn't
Like
have to consider giving him up
very
anymore.
slowly.
And that meant you
Sure.
can bet your butt I carried on posting. If the only way was up, then up I was going. By the end of my 6th week of OnlyFans, I had just short of 50 followers and was making just under $200 a month, and I put that down to
$200 a
solely
month?
me opening myself up to special requests. A lot of them came in the form of daddy stuff, which is undeniably kinky, but still mostly just sweet and affectionate. I didn't have a problem with it at all, and
Why is
once I got a little
OnlyFans so
confidence under my
weird?
belt,
Oh my god.
I'd go so far as to say that I got pretty good at it. But as it turned out, the real money was in a kind of domination that was considerably less wholesome. Some people didn't want me to just be nice to them. They wanted me to be really, really mean. I remember the first time I started to feel really disillusioned with the whole thing.
Yeah.
One special request wanted me to make a video where I basically just downright was abusive. Then when I read that they wanted me to call them all kinds of slurs, I just felt gross.
Yeah, it felt really
It was the
bad.
first time I'd had actual confirmation that some of my subscribers were gay guys, but that wasn't really it. It was the things they wanted me to call them. They're what made me feel deeply uncomfortable.
Exactly. You
I
should
replied
never
to the
do
DM saying,
stuff you
"Sorry,
don't want
I
to do
can't do that.
uncomfortable.
Is there anything else I can work in for you?" But no. The reply was almost instant, and it consisted of them just doubling the dollar amount they were offering.
Oh my god.
The first time they
no.
did that, I actually got a little offended. Did they honestly think that I'd just cave because they flashed some cash? It was about principle, not making money. So you can guess how straight up gross I felt when they threw a 4-figure amount at me. And I feel gross just typing this, but yeah, I accept it.
Ooh.
I called them some of the most despicable things that have ever come out of my mouth. And you know, I did a pretty good job of it too. I wanted that money, and it's honestly shameful how quickly I abandoned my principles. I felt bad, really bad for like a few days, but when another offer came in from a different user asking the same thing for the same price, I just couldn't say no. The bar wasn't even paying us any sort of unemployment anymore. We were like 3 months into lockdown and the money just sort of dried up. So by then, whether I liked it or not, I was almost entirely dependent on OnlyFans for my income.
Dude, that's
And when the requests got
insane.
worse, I had little choice but to fulfill them.
Yeah, because you
Looking
need the
back,
money.
I shouldn't have let it escalate. I could have kept things at the level they were at and still lived pretty comfortably until the New York City bar scene opened up again. But no, my greed took over, and at one point, I bought an entire pack of wet Italian sausage just so a guy could imagine what his junk would look like after I stamped on it in steel-toed work boots.
What?
I thought this
the
was as
hell?
bad as things would get.
Yeah, no.
I was wrong.
It can get really weird.
The red line event for me was getting a follower from another user 827484 style account, the anonymous kind you always get the weirdest DMs or requests from. The guy threw an obscene dollar amount at me, but also mentioned that some of that money was for procuring materials, as he put it.
You mean
Long
by
story
that?
short, this person wanted me to head down to an apartment building where a Hispanic lady was selling puppies. I was to go down there, pick one up, then bring it back to my apartment. I asked why, but they wouldn't tell me. They just gave me some spiel about being genuine and being a huge source of potential income in the future. But this was a puppy. Nothing good could have come out of mixing OnlyFans and baby animals.
Exactly.
What do you know? I was right. I won't go into too much detail about what this user wanted me to do, but it was some of the most evil, heinous stuff I'd ever heard.
Oh, let me guess.
They wanted me to hurt the puppy.
Yep.
Not just kill it. Hurt it. Over the course of days. Maybe even weeks from some
no,
of the
please
stuff that they were
don't.
DMing me.
Please don't
When I
tell
outright
me.
denied their request, the threats began. Whenever I blocked an account, another one would pop up and pay the sub fee, knowing it would be returned when I inevitably blocked them. And by the time I started getting scared that this person or group of people I could never tell would get a hold of my contact details, I had to be brave enough to just click that little delete profile button and face the music. So, I'm currently living with my mom and her boyfriend out here in New Jersey. I can't actually describe how much it sucks to be living in a garage with my 30th birthday fast approaching, but I also know my life could be so much worse. Every time I miss Williamsburg, every time I miss having my bank account being padded for next to no work at all, I just look over at Ripper, give him a pat, and think, yeah, COVID has sucked. It's ruined a lot of lives, including mine.
It has.
But at least, I have my pupper.
I mean, that's not so much of a horror story, really.
I started
Anyway.
an OnlyFans account a few years back now.
Next
I've been
story.
recognized a grand total of 3 times because of my tattoos. I keep them covered up in my job because it's the kind that really doesn't like you showing off ink like that.
And by the way, these
how badly they
are
freak if they
real,
knew I had an OnlyFans.
true stories, apparently.
The point is, I like to be discreet, and my subs, for the most part, seem to understand that. The first time was about a week after my birthday. I told my subs that it was my birthday month to be discreet whilst still raking in the birthday tips. So although they didn't know exactly when I was born, they knew it was like roughly that time of the year. I had one guy give me a few looks on the subway, which isn't totally out of the ordinary if I'm honest, but just before he got off, he barely even looked at me as he said, "Happy birthday," and called me by my username. Like I said, he didn't make it obvious who he was talking to. He just ghosted immediately after, and there was no other interaction. I mean, if you're going to get recognized for OnlyFans, you could do way, way worse than that.
Probably.
Second time was by a guy who literally screeched to stop on his bike, pedaled back to look at me, then turned bright red and said, "Oh my God," then literally zoomed away like I was going to attack him or something. Granted, he could have been just having a moment, but trust me, when you have an OnlyFans, you just sort of know where people recognize you from. Anyway, now for the third time, and by far the worst time, I don't show my face on my OnlyFans, but I did used to show my tattoos, though not anymore. God bless those cute arm sleeve things. So, this one time a guy stops, visibly starts checking out my tattoos, before he kinda gasps and looks up at me. I just play it cool, like there had been some kind of mistake. There blatantly hadn't, and just ignore him while I carry on reading and drinking my coffee. I half expected him to keep moving, but he didn't. He sat down next to me and started calling me by my username. I'd never been confronted like that, and it didn't exactly put me in the mood to be like, "Oh, hi, yeah, it's me." So I continued to deny it while also shooting him this look that tried to say, "Dude, stop. It's me, sure, but please just shut up." But then he reacts in such a horrid, violent way like, "What? You think I'm dumb, huh? You'll take my money? The money I work my butt off for, and you won't even acknowledge me in the street?" That was his cue to just go off, and this guy just tore into me while an entire coffee shop and passers-by looked on. I'd rather not give him the satisfaction of repeating what he said or go into detail about how much it hurt my feelings, but I'll put it this way. I spent almost $90 on arm sleeves to cover up my tats, and I haven't been recognized since. It really did mess with me for a while, though. Like the reoccurring thought was, you were lucky he found you in the day. If that had been the night on some dark street somewhere, I might not have been nearly as lucky, and I might not have walked away at all.
I don't exactly know how these are like really, really horror. In a way, just, I don't know. I never thought OnlyFans could have horror stuff. So
in September of 2020,
another story.
A 20-year-old Australian university student
Australian
posted a harrowing personal account to the popular social media site Reddit. In it, she detailed the terrifying ordeal she'd been subjected to after posting intimate pictures of herself on a social media page known as OnlyFans. One involving obsessive stalking, internet loopholes, and ultimately, a clear and present threat to her life. Only through a completely anonymous throwaway account did she feel safe enough to share her story, adding that her local police force had finally taken action against the person responsible. But even then, The girl made it clear that her complaints should have been taken seriously long before she was in any imminent danger.
Mm-hmm.
According to the girl, the incidents all started after she moved back with her parents during the summer break.
What's with the
The
dog?
girl was particularly excited to be home, as the family had just bought a new puppy. By all accounts, the girl was having a ball getting to know her new furry friend. But as anyone who's ever
But
had a
why
puppy
is
will
it
tell
wandering
you,
around the
to say
street?
they can be erratic would be the understatement of the century. One night, the girl awoke to hear her puppy yelping at the back door. They were in the middle of potty training, but the pup didn't quite have the hang of it yet. So she climbed out of bed, put on her slippers, and went downstairs to let the dog out. She says it was as late as 2 a.m., and there didn't
Oh
seem to be
no.
another soul around as she stepped down into the night. But she soon
Oh
found that she wasn't
boy.
entirely alone. I saw this figure in a car, she said. I could tell they were looking at me, but it was pitch black outside, and I couldn't make out their face. I felt a bit uneasy, but I didn't really think anything of it.
Yep.
Only when I go back
And
inside, the
this
car
dude is
started
going.
up and followed me up my driveway. The
Yeah.
terror of such an experience is undeniable, and even though the girl was so close to home, there's no denying that being out alone in the middle of the night made her very vulnerable indeed. I was terrified, the girl added. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, and kept an eye out for them in case they tried to break in. But as far as I know, they just backed out of our driveway and left. When she woke up the following morning, after a terrible night of restless sleep and deep concern, the girl found an envelope inside her parents' letterbox. The envelope contained not only 20 Australian dollars in cash, but also her OnlyFans username.
Damn.
I thought long and hard about
Like
how I
that
could have
is
found my parents' address, the girl said,
exactly.
and I worked out that the problems didn't start until I shared my Amazon wish list. OnlyFans and Amazon were both adamant that their security systems prevent leaks like that from taking place. However, it appeared that wasn't the issue, as third-party sellers are not bound to the same data protection laws as large multinational companies. Although she doesn't know for certain how her stalker got her address, the girl is 90% sure that they got in touch with a third-party seller and obtained her home address in that way. Whether it was
How?
money, coercion, or intimidation that caused the seller to give up the info is another question entirely, but the fact
Exactly.
remains that it's the most likely of all explanations. After that, when I moved back to the college town where I was studying, I stopped posting content, the girl goes on to explain. But somehow my stalkers still managed to track me down.
How?
The girl said she basically closed down her OnlyFans account, then started a YouTube account because of how unsafe the former felt. Her first big vlogging project was due to be a shopping trip to a local mall, but when she got to her car to depart for the day, she found it had been ransacked. The vlogging camera was missing too, she said. I know,
Yeesh.
it's my fault for leaving it in the car, but I was using it the night before, and since I lived in a gated area, I didn't think I would be unsafe. Yet she added that the camera was inside of her glove box and contained an SD card with unreleased photos and videos on it. It was almost like someone knew it was there.
How
But as
though?
bad as that was, it only got weirder from there. She eventually contacted her building security personnel, asking if they could review security camera footage from the previous few nights. And it was through this that not only did she see a man break into her car and ignore other cars in the parking lot, but she also had proof she was being deliberately singled out for targeted harassment. After they got the camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window, the girl wrote. My bedroom faces an outside street and the blinds are broken, so it's very easy to see in. I have a
Oh
curtain, but
no.
it doesn't cover my window all the way. Look, what I'm trying to say is, this person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't. The woman explained her camera was later recovered at a nearby secondhand store, suggesting whoever is stalking her has a prior history of criminality. However,
Okay.
she added that the camera's memory card was missing.
Yep.
I know he kept it as some kind of trophy. I just know it, she added, and has since moved and hopes her stalker hasn't followed. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I have broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully this will keep me safe.
I
But
don't
what's so
know.
scary about the girl's story is that it seems like only a matter of time before this stalker decides to take things further. Unless they're caught, stalkers will only ever escalate their activities until their obsession reaches a deadly and permanent end.
Mm-hmm. Damn. I didn't think this could go that far. Like, yeah, I kind of had a good idea of how scary it would be, but I don't know. It's actually quite sad. Like, in a way where people's address get leaked and they get stalked. Like, that's not on, really. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and stay safe.